Hey, I'm Paul and welcome to Zilla Cabs. In this week's video, we're going to look at an issue that I get asked quite a lot about, and it is damaged grill cloths. Mostly, how do you repair a damaged grill cloth? Hey, this is just a quick message I'm going to drop in towards the start of the video. I have actually just finished the cab. It's looking great. It's sounding great. I've just been playing it. And I think you're going to love it, and I think you're going to find this this video really interesting. But initially, my plan was to make this video 5 or 6 minutes long. I've been talking through as the video's been going, and I think it's actually going to be a lot longer. There's going to be loads more talking in. There's not going to be much music in between the shots. It's probably just going to be me talking about little tips and that kind of stuff. So if this is a job that you're looking at doing, I'm hoping this is going to be really interesting and really useful for you, but it is longer and there's loads more talking and I'm not as concise. This isn't scripted. I'm just talking as I go. So if you want to leave a comment saying this guy won't shut up, I don't really care. Go and watch someone else's video. I'll do a silent video just for you. But for everyone else, I hope you find this useful. Leave us some comments below and enjoy the video. So this cab is one of ours. It's a 1x15 cab. It's one that we use in the studio quite a lot. It's had multiple speaker changes. It doesn't go out much. It's not like it goes out on the road all that much. The Tolex is still in a relatively decent condition to say it's had loads of use. But this damage that you see here is kind of indicative of the kind of damage you'll see from gear that goes out on the road. Often you'll see this kind of thing on 4x12s. I know a lot of the 4x12s we have here that either go out or are kind of older vintage gear from other brands. They'll have something like this on, and it normally comes from a mic stand falling over. That's quite happens a lot, or movement in a van when the cabs aren't cased. This I don't actually know how this happened. It's quite a beefy dent considering the grill cloth's so thick. Normally the Basketweeve takes a good whack, really. I'm guessing this is a microphone stand that's fallen over, or something with some leverage, and it's given it a good whack. I mean, that takes a lot of force to do that. Luckily it's protected the speaker, so it's there, it's done its job, it's kept the speaker safe. The cab's still sounding great, but it just looks tatty. Now, we get asked all the time about speaker grill changes. It's not something we do lots, so I'm going to show you a few of the different stages in doing it. I'm going to hopefully give you a few tips and help you out if it's the kind of thing you want to do, or if kind of help you decide if you think it's something you want someone else to do for you. Right, the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to lay the cab down on its front. And the reason for that is the back panel screwed in place. Most cabs that you'll find have the back panel screwed into place. First thing I'm going to do is, with my hand, I'm going to take that the nut off the jack, so that when I lift the back up, it doesn't pull anything out. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to take that off there. Normally, it depends how tight the back panel is. Sometimes you need to give it a good tug. Some of them can, after a while, the pressure inside creates a seal. I mean, there's a generally fairly good seal anyway, but makes it a bit tough to pull out. Don't forget to remove the screw to the center post. Just take them all out. Now, I suppose it's a good point to say there's loads of different ways of building cabs. This is just one of ours. Back is removable. Now the baffle itself, to get the grill out, we're going to have to take the baffle itself out, which means it's safest to take the speaker out. And for us to take the baffle out, we're going to have to take the side handles out. So that's what I'm going to do now. Now, one piece of advice I'd give is it might be make sense to try and do this manually rather than an electric drill driver. Sometimes screws can get a bit tight, a bit rusty. These are fine. But you don't want to thread them. By the way, this is a fantastic speaker. It's the Fullback 15. This is a 115 cab. We're probably going to say that a million times. I just don't want you to think that that's like a 12-inch speaker and that I've got really tiny hands. Right, I'm going to take the speaker out now. Sometimes this one's come out nice. Sometimes they can create a seal and you have to give them a little tug. If that's the case, if you get a screwdriver or screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, you just put it under the chassis, just ever so slight, and give it a tiny little lever in a few different places. You'll often find it just pops out. Sometimes the pressure will just seal things up. Okay, I'm going to take the center post out now, just because it's going to be easy. I don't have to, but it's going to be, I've got to change a bit there. It's just going to be easier for you to do. Make sure you don't knock it. I've left the speaker all wired up. If it's a multiple speaker cab, I'd probably take photos of the speaker and the wiring so that you can just plug everything back. You probably want to take the wiring off if it's got multiple speakers, but if it's a 112 or 115 or something, you just leave it wired up. You should be fine. I'm going to take the side handles now. Right, I'm going to use a drill driver. I do this on most of the hardware. You'll see now I use it on the back panel. Depends on the age of your cab, but often screws can kind of fix in a little bit more than you want. And unless you're Popeye with a massive forearm, you'll find that doing them by hand is not only hard, but you can actually round over the screw sometimes. Right, one thing I would say is, I don't want to say pro tip, I think that sounds stupid, but, oh, I've left one in. Okay, pro tip, take out all the screws. Another thing is, I would remember which side this handle goes in. So from the front, it is the left-hand side. I'm going to put this to the left-hand side of the bench. And the reason for that is sometimes screws don't go in exactly the same place every time. When the screw hits the metal, because there's no washer, it can make an ever so slight mark. So if you put the same handle in the same place, all the holes lined up and everything will look great. If you have it the other way around and one of the screws is slightly off, then any mark that's on the handle from the screw, if the hole's in a slightly different place, you'll be able to see the mark. So I think it just looks a bit tidier that way. I did it again. I think I'm going blind. Okay, so now we've got the cab. All the hardware's off. We should be able to take the baffle out now. Or at least we should be able to take the baffle out once we've taken the screws out. What you'll often find is that these screws are either what we'd call in the UK gauge 5 or gauge 6. Most of these screws, what that means is normally about somewhere between 4 or 5 millimeters. So generally what you'll need is a posi 2-bit, which is that there. But there we go. I should have taken them all out now. Right, one tip I would give is count how many drill holes there are and count how many screws come out of the cab. We don't want any of these getting lost in the grill cloth. I mean, we are changing it, but that's just a general tip that I'd give, especially for changing speakers. Make sure nothing falls under there. Right, so baffle should come straight out now, hopefully. There we go. One thing to know, or one tip here, is when you're going back in, if you've got a lot of corrosion on the screw and you don't want to put them in, or you've lost some, or there's some missing, you have to make sure there's the right amount of screws, because if it's not, it's going to allow the baffle to move around, vibrate, that kind of stuff, and you don't want that. Make sure, if you're going to replace the screws, make sure they're exactly the same size so that you don't cause any problems. Too short and it might not fix the baffle in place properly. Too long and you might go through the cab. Generally, there's not a massive amount of wiggle room. You might have 5 mil or so, but you want to use exactly the same screw. Right, so now I'm going to take the badge off. and we should be good to unpick the staples now. Right, at this point, I will say I've briefly touched on this, but not all cabs are built the same. Often what you'll find is the two most common would be a baffle like this, which is screwed into the cab. There's a lip on the front of the cab, baffle goes in from the back and screws going from the back. Create a nice seal, keep it nice and tight. It's generally a good way of fitting a baffle. Allows a little bit of flex, but it's still securely fastened in. Okay, before I jumped in there with more tips, I was explaining about the baffle. So baffle goes in from the back, screw from the back to the front of the cab. What that means is generally the grille cloth will be attached to the baffle, which it is in this case. There's multiple different ways of doing it, or different ways of designing the baffle, but nearly always the grille will be stapled. So this means we're going to be unpicking some staples. Now, other ways of doing this would be to have the grille on a frame, which will go in from the front, and generally in that case the baffle will be fixed into the cab. Think of Mesa Boogie do that a lot. There's plenty of other brands. We do that on our ported cabs and our base cabs where the baffles themselves are fixed, generally because we want more rigidity from the baffle. The way we do most of our guitar cabs, so like this one, baffle coming in from the back, that will be generally how a lot of Marshalls are done. Orange do them that way. It's a relatively standard way of putting the baffle into the cab. So I don't know exactly which way you'll be doing this, but it'll involve some unpicking of staples. A positive thing about having the grille on a frame is that to remove the grille frame, generally you just have to take the back out and loosen a few screws that are in the back, keeping the grille frame in place. Occasionally it will be removable, so just on Velcro, so that's nice and easy. So it means that you don't have to take any handles out. The trouble with that is you'll generally, if there's any piping, you'll have to replace that because that is around the grille edge. And in this case, this cab doesn't have piping. I am actually going to add some later, but the piping is fit to the cab itself rather than the grille, and the piping can be a little bit tricky. Right, what I'm going to do now is unpick the staples. All right, so you've just seen me taking some staples out. I was using a chisel and some pliers. The chisel that I'm using, don't use a good one. This one's an old one. It's all battered in. And make sure you keep your hands out of the way. So I was using the chisel like this. Don't put your hand there. You'll end up with hands that are all scarred up like mine. I'm going to do this a slightly different way though. I'm going to cut the grille out. I'm going to use a belt sander to take it down. It's a bit quicker. It is a smelly job, but it's just make sure everything's nice and smooth. But I'm assuming a lot of you won't have a belt sander, so that's how I'm going to do it. But there's no real difference. Oh, actually, and another thing. Make sure you wear goggles because those staples can fly all over the place. Wear goggles and watch your hands. All right, so I've taken the grille cloth off now. I've tidied the baffle up a little. I gave it a paint over a few little bits places, and the grille that we had. I'm struggling here. The grille that we had on there was a Basketweeve. I'm going to put salt and pepper on there because I prefer the look of it. And I'm going to put a black pipe on the cab because I think it's going to look really mean this way. If this is your first time, or even if it's your 10th time, I'd probably say go for a black grille because you're going to find it easy to put on there for the most part. There's loads of different grills out there, loads of different suppliers, so just Google it and you'll find someone. This is a kind of a vintage British style. You see it on a few old Marshalls and stuff, a few vintage reissue Marshall things. Mesa Boogie use it now a bit. Loads of companies use it. It's actually similar weave, made on the same machines to the Basketweeve, but it's a little bit thicker. It's a bit tougher on the fingers. Most black grills are a little bit thinner and just easier to put on. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure I put it on straight so that you don't see any wonky lines in there. This is a thick grill, so it is harder to get on straight. This is again why I'd say use a black one. So I'm going to staple it on and yeah, get cracking on this. One thing I will say now is make sure that you've got all the right safety gear on. This is just to show you how to do the grill change. It's no make sure you go and check out health and safety and all that kind of stuff for the right safety gear. Right, one thing I will say is I'm stapling the top here, but if it's a front loading, if it's a front loading grill or it's on a grill frame or something like that, you're probably not going to want to staple along this edge. You'll be stapling along this edge down here to hide the staple. So anywhere that you're stapling, make sure that you think about where they're going and that they'll be hidden, so because you don't want to see staples. Well, I've just used this little tool here. Can be quite useful, but it's for doing the rest of the grill. You need other tools to go along with it to really make it work on flat surfaces like this. So I tend not to really use it that much. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fold these edges over and staple them. Most companies don't do that. Most companies will just trim off the edge, but it's just going to make it that bit more secure. All right, so we put the grill on now. We've tried to make it as tight as we can, as taut, get everything all nice and straight and everything. I'm going to go and trim down the edges now, and then I'm going to add some pipe to the cab. I'm going to trim this bit over the bin because it's just going to chuck little bits everywhere and I can't be bothered to clean them up. So, right, now's probably a good time to tell you about what we do here at Zilla. Hopefully a few of you are new to the channel, with this being a slightly different video from what we do. If you like it so far, make sure you check out our other videos, like and subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We normally do custom cab builds, so make a video of specific cabs that we're doing. You get to see the Tolex in normally and all that kind of stuff. I talk about why the customers chose certain things. We do loads of AB videos as well, so you get to hear what, I don't know, vintage 30 sounds like against a creamback or something like that. And if you're wondering how we choose the colors that we go for, make sure you check out the website, zillacabs.com. We've got some really cool tools and features on there that help you decide, go through all the different things, kind of steer you into what route may work best for you. We've got loads of cabs on there, loads of models. Something that's really useful for customers is the design tool that we have on there. We called it the cab builder, but you get to play around with different cab models, loads of different colors. So if you want to see what this 115 would look like with white pipe or gold pipe, maybe wicker grill, maybe slime green with black stripes or something like that, you get to do that. We only have the fullback on here for the 115, but for the for the 12-inch speakers and the 10-inch cabs that we do, you get to hear all the audio of how the different speakers sound. You get to mix them as well, so that's kind of useful feature. Right, I'm going to get on with the piping now, but one thing you need to make sure is you need to wear the safety gear here, because your eyes are going to be pretty close to where the staple gun is, and you know, I know we all use our ears, but we kind of use our eyes too, so stay safe. Something I'm going to do now is just tap with the hammer on the back of where I've stapled. Make sure that the staples are nice and flush. I'm going to do the same thing on the grill as well, just to make sure there's no protruding staples or anything. Sometimes they don't go 100% all the way in. It's just how it happens. One thing, I'm used to this, so I know what to look out for, but don't run your fingers along the back too quick, just in case one of the staples is buckled back round and you don't want to stab yourself. Right, now we've done the grill, we're going to put that inside the cab. One thing I will say is with the piping, it's a relatively tricky job. Hopefully I just made it look really easy. It is a little bit, it does take quite a lot of practice to get it in there straight. It's just one of those things. I've probably done 10,000 before. Same as the grills. The grills are pretty hard to do. And again, hopefully I've kind of made it look relatively straightforward, but again, I've done probably over 10,000 of these, so just one of those things. You need to make it nice and tight. You don't want it baggy and straight, so they're the key things for that. Right, I'm going to put the baffle inside the cab now, and we'll start seeing the cab come back together now. Right, something that's really annoying that I sometimes do even still is make sure you put it in the right way round. Most baffles aren't square, so it's easy enough to know the top from the side, but the top and the bottom often look quite similar, so just make sure you're doing it. We often, or accidentally put it in the wrong way round and then have to take it back out and put it back in. There's generally not that much difference between top and bottom. It's just that usually it's where the badge placement is, so that when we come to put the badge back in, we want to put it in the same place. Right, I'm going to screw this in now. I'm just checking that the cab is square with this framing square that I've got here. This one is. We check all ours get done properly. You'd be amazed at how many cabs that we work on that aren't. The trouble with them not being square is because you're not building this cab, you're refitting the cab essentially. The drill holes are going to find, the screw holes are going to find the old screw holes, so it's probably going to go back in not square if it wasn't square in the first place. Just be aware of it. You can sometimes jig things around. It can be a pain though. Unfortunately, not all companies check that their cabs are square when they send them out, which is a little bit silly, but yeah, just watch out for that one. It'll just saves a few issues. Do what you can. Framing square, make sure your square's square as well. Sometimes you can get squares that aren't square. So yeah, that's one thing to watch out. I'm using a load of new screws. Again, like I said earlier, make sure they're the same type and same length. We made this cab, so obviously we're using the same screws. It can be a little bit harder when you're fitting up a cab from, well, obviously you probably haven't made the cab itself. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but you find that I'm just putting the screws in and they're finding the hole. So this cab's square, but if it wasn't, it'd just be pulling it back into its original kind of out of square. Going to make sure that the screws are making a nice seal to the front. Sometimes you don't want to press down too hard, but you need to press down a little bit to make sure that the baffle's clamping against the front of the cab. You also want to make sure there's no bows in the sides of the cab. That can also be what makes it look like it's out of square, but when it is actually square, it's actually square. Probably didn't make a lot of sense there. What I mean is if there's a bow on one of the edges, it'll put a slight gap in the square when you hold it up. I do apologise if some of my explanations here aren't that great, talking about squares and stuff like that. It's something I think it's important to mention, but it isn't like essential to changing a grill cloth. That's more of that tips on how to build a cab or how to reassemble a cab that you're taking apart. which is something you're probably going to have to do if you're taking the baffle out. The reason I'm changing these screws is we use a zinc plated screw, which is a good screw. It's nice and strong. And they last a long time. They do tarnish ever so slightly, but it doesn't stop their functionality. I like stainless screws, but I generally only use stainless when they're visible and when I know I'm not going to be able to taking them in and out quite a lot. 'Cause the trouble with stainless is it's relatively soft, so you can round them over if you don't do them right. We don't use stainless for the back panels, just because sometimes customers will be taking them in and out. They are quite easy to round, and it kind of just solves problems on customers rounding screws over. There's quite a lot of things on speaker cabs where if a screw goes, it's really hard to fix. Right, this might sound stupid, but make sure that you've replaced all the screws. You don't want to be missing any screws out in there. Often older cabs will actually be missing them. So again, you're going to want to find some like-for-like replacements. Now I'm putting the handles back on. Remember I said, remembering which handle goes back in place. Hopefully I'm not going to look stupid by, hopefully all the holes line up. If you want to, this might be a good time to replace the hardware if the cab's a little bit older. Hardware is generally quite cheap. Just Google it, you'll find it. Okay, all those holes are lined up, so it's going to look smart. But you don't want to over tighten the screw, but you don't want them loose, which is a really confusing thing to say now. There we go, that's one handle. Hopefully you just got a shot of the a little glimpse of the cab there. I love this colour scheme. I really like the black pipe. If you watch our shorts and reels and all that kind of stuff on the socials, you probably notice the cabs that get talked about are the ones that I generally get drawn to, and they often have black pipe. I just think it looks really mean. I'm putting these on. There we go, just adjusting it. I was talking earlier about how making sure you don't lose any of the screws, mostly because you don't want them inside or you don't want them stuck on the table. This is a black table, so you don't want black screws stuck on there, moving the cab around and then damaging it. One thing that is kind of good is sometimes you get a little baggie or something like that, or a bunch of them, and put the screws, count the screws off as you take them, put them in, just to keep them all together in one place. And that is generally what we do when we're doing a lot of recovering stuff. We will take the parts, we'll get a box just for that piece of kit, load of bags, and we'll just take all the the screws from the corners off, put them in a bag, all that kind of stuff. There's nothing worse than finding, I don't know, 19 screws when you need 20 and looking around everywhere for them, and then you have to replace all the screws, all that kind of stuff. Right, I'm going to put the badge on. It is looking really nice. I love this. Like I said earlier, if this isn't your thing, if you don't like this, if you want to go a bit more traditional, if you preferred the Basketweeve grill that it had on there before, or you want a black or wicker or something like that, if you want to go gold pipe, make sure you check out the cab builder program that we have on the website. You'll be able to play around with all these things and see where they are. I thought I'd lost the screws there. I'm just going to go and get a ruler. All right, one thing I would advise is, I probably should have said this earlier, but hopefully you've watched this video before you try this, is to make a note of where the drill holes are for the badge. Another good thing about using a black grill is it's normally relatively transparent, so you can see where the old holes are. I know with the Marshall badges, there's a load of drill holes, and it is an absolute pain to find where they are again. We've got loads of jigs here, so I just line up the jigs, but even still, they're not always centered And it can be a nightmare. You can be spending 20 minutes or 30 minutes, spending 20-30 minutes just finding the drill holes. So here, I know where the badge placements are on this, so obviously, well, hopefully anyway. Right, this is perfect indecision from me, or decisiveness now. I decided I'm going to put the new badge on there. The drill holes all line up, so it's nice and easy. Again, great advert for the cab changer. If you, oh, actually, no, it's not, because we don't have the old badges on there, so forget I said anything. Look at this, I love this colour scheme. There we go. Next up, I'm going to put the speaker in. What I've done is I've checked in there to make sure there's nothing loose inside. Taken a look just over the cone and everything, making sure there's nothing in the way. I don't really like touching speaker cones too much, but if there's anything, any debris or anything like that, you don't really want it in. It's a good chance to check. I'm going to screw the speaker back in now. This one's got the 8 fixing holes. They're fine with the 4. Most speakers have 4 fixing holes. Doesn't really make any difference. What I do when I'm fitting the speakers, again, I know this video is about grill cloth, but while we're doing it, I'm gonna tell you, you don't want to over tighten them. You don't want to be too loose either. So what I do is I one by one go most of the way in with the electric drill driver. Now again, I kind of get to cheat here because I've made this cab, so I know that the T-nuts are all good. I would be tempted, if I was you, just before you fit these, to just do a kind of a dry run. Make sure they go in all the way. Make sure there's no debris in the T-nut. Make sure the thread on the machine screws is good. If you're replacing these, this goes for British. This goes for everyone actually. Remember, a lot of American stuff will be Imperial, and a lot of older British stuff will be Imperial too. I assume it's the same with other countries, but don't force these. Right, so there, all the screws are in nice. These have all gone in nice. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to get them kind of finger tight. These fittings, we use an Allen key fitting. Most will be a Phillips, again a Posi 2. Most of the things you'll find on cabs are Posi 2. I'm getting them pretty tight. Well, no, I'm getting them finger tight. So you can just feel a little bit of tension on the speaker chassis itself. I'm going to then go around and just tighten them a little bit further. There'll be some people here telling you that you have to do opposite sides and all that kind of stuff. It's a load of that. Is we're not working for NASA. We're fitting speakers. It's everyone has a different way. What you don't want to do is just hammer the machine screw in and end up twisting the chassis. They're all finger tight now. What I'm going to do is go a little bit more. There's a little cushion on the underside of the speaker chassis that takes a little bit of extra force, I guess you'd say. I don't know exactly how to explain how much force to put on them. You want to get it so that you've got a really firm connection, and that they're in nice and tight, that they're not going to work their way loose. While we're doing this, I probably will mention, when you're fitting speakers, when they're going in and out, you want to make sure, yeah, you want to make sure they're tight. But if you've got a cab that you're playing, or a cab that you've just bought, or maybe even a cab that you think sounds a bit different from what it used to do, check the connection here. Check that the screws are in nice and tight, because sometimes they can work their way loose and the cab will sound really different. I've had it quite a few times where I've thought the cab just hasn't sounded right. This is like maybe an old Marshall or something like that, 40, 50-year-old cab, and the screws have just come loose. And as soon as you tighten them up, completely different. You can also get a weird resonance. It sounds like it's coming off the backboard, but often it's just that the speaker's just not in tight enough. So there we go. Don't ask me how tight they are, because I don't know what the figure would be. It's just hard to say. I fit probably 100,000 speakers, so I kind of know. Unfortunately, when I started out, I probably did over tighten a few, and probably under tighten a few as well. So one of those things. I'm going to put this baffle brace in again. Could do a whole video on baffle bracing. The long story short is that helps keep a bit of rigidity onto the baffle. It's kind of hard with 1x15s because 112s, anything where the speaker is almost centered, they're not quite centered. You'd ideally want the brace in the center like a 4x12. Here you don't have that, but you know. Right. Check your connections right on the speaker. Thread it back through. There we go. Actually, on the back of here, I need to change the sticker because it's actually an 8 ohm speaker in there. That's actually probably something you guys should check as well. Just make sure that the impedance is right there. I've got something in the way there. Oh, okay. So the support here, because I've added, I should have known this, because I've added piping, and the grille's pretty much the same thickness as the thing. What you'll notice is this is now a little bit too long. So I'm going to have to go and just sand a little bit off. Let me just show you here. You may be able to see that kind of rocks. It should be flush. So I'm going to go and sand that down a little bit, and then come back probably a little bit dustier and fit that. All right, this should be a nice fit. I also realised that I was fitting it the wrong way around too. This kind of goes to show, one, take photos before you start. Like I say, I've built over 10,000 cabs and worked on way more, and I just put that in backwards. So I just got to use a new sander that I bought for the workshop, for the wood room. It's not, I say a new sander, it's this is a really bad story. It's not new. I bought it 2 years ago, but just couldn't be bothered to fit it. So I don't really know why I bought it, because it's not a tool that we use that much. But and we've actually already got one. It's a little bit smaller and takes way less use and does the job just right. But I don't know. Just being stupid and having a big workshop. It's yeah. All right, so I've connected it back up. I'll probably take this sticker off actually at some point, and we'll put another one up, because this is a test cab. The speakers go in and out all the time, so I'll make sure I change that. There's a little bit of corrosion on these screws at the back, but they should all be good. This cab's This cab's done quite a lot of work. The cabs are all great, it's just a little bit of surface, whatever you call it. Not corrosion, just a little bit tarnishing. All right, so now everything's done. Let's recap on the different stages, all the kind of bits and bobs I had to do. This is actually a bit more of an involved video than I thought, but I did, while I was filming it, I kind of figured that you may well benefit from me breaking down the other little bits rather than just telling you how to change a grill cloth, giving you some information on what stages I would go through in the whole process. So taking the baffle out, all that kind of stuff. Right. The first thing I would say is make sure you're safe. So we've got goggles, we've got the ear defenders, the staplers can be kind of loud. And it's not that it's actually just loud. It's not like playing the guitar loud. It's just a really staccato, it's really sharp, loud. It gets you, it gets your ears. We've got a special stapler, special air compressor, so it's not as loud. Often you'll see me, I'll just have my hoodie up and it takes the high end off, which is fine. Yeah, watch your face when you're doing the piping. You're firing staples more towards your face, and unpicking the staples from the grill. Wear goggles to protect your eyes. Sorry, I can't speak. Wear goggles to protect your eyes. Watch your hands with the chisel or the screwdriver that you're using, or whatever you're using to take the staples out. Use pliers as well to get those, but really do watch your eyes. This could be a little bit dangerous. Protect the cone. So when you're screwing the speaker in and out, or unscrewing, taking it out, putting it back in, watch the cone. Pick the speaker up from the magnet, hold it very gently. Don't wrap your hands underneath the chassis. Your fingers are going to touch the cone, so just be nice and careful with that. Have all your stuff all spaced out nicely. Make it so that you can put the speaker down somewhere nice. Maybe don't put it on carpet, put it on a hard surface. Take photos. Take photos before you start, so that you can see where everything goes. You can always just delete them, but there's nothing worse than thinking, oh, where did these screws go? What screws went on here? Were these the screws for the handles or the corners and all that kind of stuff? Not that you'll be taking corners off. What else is there? You're going to want to find the materials. So I just say eBay or Google. The tools, again, it's probably, I don't know if it's worth buying the tools to do this job. Might be easier to find some guitar techs do this kind of stuff. It's not actually a big job once you know how to do it. It's kind of for us, the reason we don't do it is we concentrate on our cabs so much. We've got more than enough work doing that. There's a lot of faff in preparing. The job itself might take like an hour or so. There's loads of faff in preparing, risk in damaging speakers. You've got to pack it, you've got to book them in. So I'd say for us, there's probably an hour job and probably 2 or 3 hours worth of bull around the side of it. That's why we don't really do it anymore. Just check screws, bag all the screws up, keep count of them, don't lose them, don't drop them on the surface that you're working on, then put the cam, smack it down. I know all this kind of stuff sounds real basic, but it happens. It can happen to us, and we've built thousands and thousands of cabs, and it's just learn to not do that. It's just so much safer. And just remember how it came apart, and then just build it back in the opposite way. That's the best way of doing it. These kind of jobs can be a pain if you're trying to find parts along the way. So just take a look, prepare yourself, see if you can source the parts. There's nothing worse than thinking you need to replace some screws and then having to wait 2 weeks for them to come in, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's a great way of making a worn cab look better. It's just, it kind of just brings it back to life. To me, this looks new again, whereas before it kind of just looked a little bit tatty and not crappy, but I actually prefer the colours as well. Parts, I know I've said this, but Google and eBay, you can get nearly all the stuff you need. Thicker grills are harder to do. You're going to have to get a lot more tension. It's going to be hard to get it straight. We do loads of these. Those little clamping tools are kind of useful, but you do need to use certain tools around the side of those. I'm not going to go into those because you need to make custom jigs and stuff, and it's just not worth it. Yeah, but there we go. I would say if you've got any questions, put a comment below. We don't have loads of time for going through and giving specific answers, so they might not be super fast. I'll try and do that. Anyone else that's done this, feel free to jump in, and I'll probably just like it if it's all good comments and that. I'm sure there will be. But the other thing is this video has been aimed just around this cab itself. This cab, or this build type, kind of encompasses what I'd say is probably about 2/3 of the cabs out there, or 2/3 of the cabs I come across other than Zilla's. There are ones that are different. Our base cabs are more like the Mesa Boogies with the grill cloth on a frame that goes in from the front. Downside of that is you will have to change the piping. On this build, I changed the piping, but you normally won't have to. Piping normally stays quite fresh. This cab didn't have any, and I wanted black on there. That's why I did it. So the front, when the grills go in from the front, you imagine the grill cloth is stapled to the frame, and if there is any piping, that is then stapled to the grill cloth, and that is even harder than doing this. So that's kind of a bit of a bummer. Maybe I'll show you how to do that on I've got a couple of Mesa Boogies of mine that I want to recover, so maybe I'll show that in a little bit of detail. But yeah, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like and subscribe if you like it. I guess if you've got this far, you probably have liked it. If this video does well, we're probably going to do more like this. We'll concentrate on certain different aspects of repairing and that kind of stuff. I do want to do a video on the tightening of the speakers because it's a really easy job, and it is often, I'd say 10% of cabs that sound rubbish is just because of the screws. It's crazy how you can just tighten the screws and make that cab that kind of didn't sound any good sound really good. And yeah, so like and subscribe, check out our other videos. Make sure you head to the website and check out Build Your Own, see what colors you like. It's always really interesting for us to see them, and because everything's subjective. We have our own favorite colors, but it's nice to see what you like. And until next time, stay cool, hang tough, and riff hard.